Hello and welcome back to another episode of Split Decision. I believe this is episode 12, although it might be an absolute lifetime since anybody actually remembers seeing these videos. I can actually look back. I'm going to look back. We haven't uploaded a video in 6 months, Mitch, and the last Split Decision was slightly longer than that. But for anybody who doesn't know,
trying to get a hold of Enzo, huh?
This is our EMEA podcast, so that's what we're going to be leaning into at least this week. And obviously, because both of us are going to be doing Red Bull Homeground and the qualifier coming up, Mitch, we wanted to start off talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it's going to be really exciting seeing not only Red Bull Homeground getting to go over to Tokyo and seeing the teams compete there, but figuring out that last team to join the roster, Tom. I mean, like ripe with talent in EMEA right now. And who knows what rosters are even going to turn up and play there. That's what we're here to decide.
That's what we're here to decide. Okay, that's good to know.
We're making the decisions.
We're going to
here
message
today.
and be like, we've seen some rumors, and that's enough for us. You've got to now
call
pick
people
up
up.
this team.
I'm sorry, you didn't make it. We really tried to get you in there. It just didn't work. See you next time. Better luck next year. Okay. You know, someone's got to make the hard decisions, Tom, and I figured it might as well be us. Teams haven't signed on, but we'll work on that after.
Cool. Fantastic. Well, I guess there are, of the teams that are currently already there, I guess are any of them actually confirmed? Are they fully confirmed? I guess not.
I don't know. I'm sure there's still room for these rosters to change. I would be surprised about like Fnatic, but really,
well, no, we're talking about I mean about the qualifier. We'll start with the qualifier.
For the qualifier,
the next event that's coming up. So let's look at those 4 teams first. Obviously, we're going into the main event. I think we'll probably do another video on that, like getting into it. And I want to talk about some of the rumors. Fnatic, probably not going to be talking too much about them unless you have some rumors on their head coach, which, we're going to be using some of Flynn's rumors. Obviously, you could see him on Twitter if you want to have his massive spreadsheet of leaks. I'm sure Zilver's going to put that up on the screen for you now. But he doesn't even have anything for their head coach yet. So unless Mitch has got some super secret info, I'm going to go down to Heretics, because Heretics for me, especially looking at this qualifier and especially looking at the fact that they can actually play this with their full team, because I think that's one of the issues they're going to have going into the main season is obviously one of the rumors is Woot, and he is not old enough to play. But what do you think of this roster, Mitch? Because I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, seeing Benji stick around, seeing Mini Boo join Boo, I know we're going to make a ton of jokes about that. I'm going to have a good time. But the most exciting thing is, we've been hearing these whispers about Woot for quite a while, about different teams that might pick him up. And seeing him here on Heretics, I had heard, early on the season about Na'Vi, potentially him being the replacement for someone like CNET even. Yeah. So it's good to see that, obviously there was a reason that his name was floating around. But I'm curious, because this guy's been doing everything within his old teams. I think he'll bring a lot of versatility to this Heretic squad. It's whether he can actually keep up the pace with the rest of the guys in the league.
Yeah, I think that from talking to a couple of people, he would be able to sort of join in halfway through the league when it came to the actual season, because he would, I believe, turn 18 at that point. So yeah. I think they've removed the, like, I can't remember what it was called. It was like the parent rule or something. It's like if you played in the VLRs, you're allowed to come straight up. I think that was just for season 1. So right. Yeah, I think this team is exciting. I think obviously they've now gone the route of like picking up younger talent, probably cost them a bit less than some of the like showstopper talent that's going to be like on the market. It does worry me a little bit. I feel like going in with such a young team can definitely have its risks about it. But especially going into something like Red Bull, where like Foot are going to have changes. I think G2 Gozen are going to have to like really show some impressive level. And they've also had some issues recently in game changes. And Focus also coming in with a brand new team. I'd say this is their best bet to like get some real international experience really, really early on with this team. And also, you have 2 Turkish players playing in Turkey. So I think that would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, they're going to certainly have, I don't know if it's announced whether there's any kind of crowd or anything for it. I'd imagine not with a qualifier, but who knows? And yeah, I think it could be really cool if there is any form of crowd. Those Turkish guys show up every single time. Those Foot watch parties where the cinemas are just packed out are always a joy to watch. So I'm thinking that'll be really exciting. Seeing Mini Boo up on the stage as well. I think, like, I was looking at this team, I'm assuming he's coming in as a strong duelist for the squad. Yeah. So it could be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I also think Boo with young talent actually excites me a lot more than the old team, just because I think there was a lot of voices in that team, whereas I think this time much more of a chance for people to actually listen to Boo. Obviously, we haven't really named, but obviously the other players, if you don't know, we're looking at Woot and Reigns as well, 2 Turkish players, Mini Boo, Boo, and then Benji. Obviously, but 2 of them were already on the roster before. No changes to their coaching staff. So I'd said, I think that looks like a pretty solid roster. Then going up next, I guess we could talk a little bit about G2 Gozen. I think this is going to be more of one of the interesting ones because they've lost Mary, which I think is still a big loss for them, even with Sarah being a pretty decent replacement. But I'm more just excited to see what will actually happen with these rosters because I come from CS where whenever one of the women's teams would attempt to play like in one of the events, like a dream hack, like there was a dream hack where the women's event directly qualified you to the dream hack open event and it didn't go well. Like every single time the teams basically got smashed and it wasn't a fun watch. It wasn't enjoyable. Now I do think in terms of Valorant, I think the gap, I don't think it's closed by any stretch, but I think it's a lot closer than it was in CS just because of the amount of support and events that have been going on. So I'm sure G2 goes and spend a lot of time practicing versus the sort of tier 2. So I'm going to be intrigued to see how they do. I would say them winning it fairly unlikely, especially because their current form looks a little bit shakier. But I guess it is going to be that learning curve because that's what we've been told pretty much all the way through Game Changers is basically being made to supplement female players to be able to actually have a chance to compete across the board. So this will be one of the first proper looks we get, other than like I think version 1 played a lot of qualifiers in the past and did okay. Like you're talking like a top 32, top 16 open qualifiers. So if G2 can give some of these teams a match, then maybe there's something to talk about there.
Yeah, and I think some of these teams being so newly formed as well, you might catch them when they're still building some of those protocols, giving you that extra little edge. And the other thing for G2, sure, they didn't do too well regionally, but you roll back to last year, stage 3, they lose. They go on to not only win, but dominate when it came to the next event, which was the global finals.
True.
This time around, it's a much quicker turnaround, but that might almost get them, they're in the rhythm. They're hopping on the flights. They're fixing whatever they needed to. They've got some time to think. And, well, you have to hope that they come out. It's a big step for G2 Gozen, realistically. Like, there's some really strong squads in here. Even though, we'll mention the likes of Heretics, the likes of Focus as well as being newly put together. And a lot of these guys, it's, excluding Boo, Benji Fishy had like a really, really short opportunity.
True.
Well, like a 1 match. So excluding Boo, everyone here pretty much is having their first big shot at the top level. So that I think it's a really exciting time for these squads. I just hope that G2 can really make a dent on this competition because I'd say it's one of the better opportunities, especially as you mentioned back in CS. A lot of the events for the female scene were tagged on to another event. It didn't have the same room to breathe and grow.
An unbelievable amount of time apart. So it'd be like, you got DreamHack, and then in 5 months you can come back and play. It's like, there was no real practice time there. So obviously the
amateur
thing
level like structure, and that's a big difference to what we're seeing now, where it's like actually grassroots supported all the way. So we'll see if that's had a benefit to it.
Well, I think that's a good thing as well in CS that has actually changed with like Impact and stuff like that. Is they now have that proper developing scene there as well. So definitely come a long way. Now moving on, obviously we've got. I guess we can talk about the Rumours with Foot, looking to bring in Yetie and CNED. I think, in my opinion, both no-brainers. Like those are both pickups where I'm just like, oh yeah, nope, smart. Like don't really need to even consider it too much. I think CNED coming in, that one's a little bit tough for me because I like Kiwi a lot. I think Kiwi's a great player. Yeah. So the fact that he's seemingly just going to be gone unless BBL are going to make moves, we can talk about that later on, is kind of depressing because I would love to see more of him. But the core of like CNED, Mr. Farley, Cracks, Ada Captain, and Yetie, it sounds filthy. Absolutely filthy.
Oh, it really does. I agree with Kiwi. Like seeing him go definitely breaks my heart. But the reality is, even looking at Kushner X making more waves, let's say, on the international scene, Alphayer, CNED, like these guys he's definitely not up there on the top.
I thought you said Kushner's making waves on the international scene. I was like, when?
BBL, in the EMEA. They haven't gotten out. They haven't escaped just yet. But the thing is, like, you just have, within Turkish talent, you have a hierarchy. And I think he hasn't punched through to the level where CNED's at yet. And when CNED says, he comes knocking, he wants to get on that team, it's an unfortunate swap. I think the other thing as well, or an unfortunate situation for him that it is a no-brainer. I think Yedijay and him coming in as well, it's a perfect role slot as well. They just go perfectly into what their comfort is. Yedijay, I assume, is going to be Sentinel. CNED, look, no points for guessing where he's going to be playing. So the reality is, I think, well, look, with Foot especially, I think so. Yeah, we might get one. I hope so. I
think you're on drugs.
Like, I'll enjoy CNED on any agent, but I've been loving Yoru more and more recently. I don't know if it's Lothar.
You'd enjoy him on Omen again.
I'd like to correct my statement.
Okay,
I like seeing CNED on any duelist.
There we go.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think, again, like, most of those are good moves. Yedijay, obviously someone who is incredibly young as well, 17 years of age, will turn 18 in November, so he'll be fine to play in the regular season as well. But yeah, I think a great signing to the two players from Fireflux finding their feet within tier 1 organizations makes sense. I think that's the only other thing I wanted to touch on with Heretics is I thought Woot would hit the tier 1. I am surprised it's with Heretics. I think they've made some really interesting moves this time around. So I like what they've done. And then last but certainly not least, we have the side of Focus, which I definitely think is one of the more interesting invites. Obviously, they were here last time around. We don't want to talk about what happened last time around because I feel like they got screwed a little bit. But what do you think of their current roster? Because all names that are notable within the scene, but we have lost our man Yugi, which that one's a bit more of a surprise to me.
Yugi got motoed. These things happen. I think for Focus, like, definitely losing Yugi is going to be an identity shift, but having someone like Cider come in as well, the wealth of experience that he's got under his belt on teams like Alliance, for example, you might have heard of him. I don't know.
No, I haven't. Where are they from? I only remember the last 2 years of Valorant.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, those of us that were there back in the good old days,
he's that FPX player, right?
We know what that means. Yeah, well, he was the stand-in for FPX in Copenhagen, and he did pretty good.
That's the most he ever achieved.
Well, really, he went on to play for Bonk afterwards. I'll have you know. So I wouldn't quite cut his achievements short yet. But really, how was he to live up to Alliance from the early days? There was no way to match that. But yeah, there's someone like Alorante as well, who obviously Mouse is a big organization, never really did too much. Heretics, big organization as well. Could probably say the same for them. Volvo Peak used to be demons back in the day. That's where I remember this guy from. Every scrim you had against these guys, it was always fun. Somehow they were always available for scrims, and they were always a good one to learn from. So I'm really happy to see him push through to that top tier. And I think this team very much has that identity as like all more or less rookies to this level. And well, an opportunity to go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest teams out there if they make it through to the main event. This is very much what this team exists for every year. They are trying so hard to claw their way through. And yeah, to be honest, the roster looks okay. Lime is the one that I'm not too familiar with. Like, obviously we've seen Fizzy back on Saw and everything. Saw! But nice. Lime, I'm not sure how he's gonna match up. Sorry, Tom. I should put my fist in front of you, right? I should block you. Do Yinsu. I love that picture. So you can tell you were smiling, and you just can't see any of your face with Sue's fist.
The thing is, so Lime was on the roster before, so he's someone who hasn't actually moved away from it. I think definitely one of the more flexible players within that team. So I think someone good to keep around, because I think that's the thing that a lot of these sort of, well, I don't want to even really call Focus a tier 2 org because they've been investing quite a bit, but a lot of those teams will just go, he hits headshots, stick them all together. Why didn't I win Ascension? And so, like, I think that they're going they're keeping Lime. I think he's still fantastic individually, but he'll fit in some of the roles. Like, you even look at his last match played, he played Killjoy and Yoru. So
yes,
that's the sort of Lime we're talking about, them playing through in that sort of Ascension battle. So I think that they are a team that should definitely be watched out for. I think underestimating them, it would be very, very foolish for anybody entering into that qualifier, because I think, in my opinion, going into next year, this will be like the Ascension gatekeeper. Like, if you're like winning it, you have to basically outdo this team. I think that's going to be a lot more difficult. Whether they'll win it is another thing altogether. But like, I think Lewis is someone who, while calling, seems to just have fantastic confidence in his own ability and frag to a very high level. Also just a hilarious human being. He's someone I want to see on camera more and more. So I might try and grab him for a bit of the desk or something if we can, because he is one of my favorite human beings I've met so far in Valorant. Fizzy as well, I think another fantastic sort of role player within the team that just gets his job done, but also frags to a high level. So I think that Focus have done a fantastic job with their scouting, because I'll be honest, I think the majority of these players easily could have been in tier 1. Like, I don't think any of them being picked up, I don't think I would have been gobsmacked. So good roster for them. I'm going to, before we move on to just general EMEA, who do you think is going to win?
It's a tough one, man. You know, looking at the previous performance of G2, losing stage 3, winning the next tournament, the formula seems to add up. Do I want to pick them as my favorites? No.
No, I didn't think so. It'd be optimistic. Like, I'd love them to do it, but I'd say it'd be very optimistic.
That would be the greatest long shot I think I would have taken. Like, because I would love to see them. Yeah, I'd love to see them take it and find that victory, come out strong. The thing is, you know, the caliber of teams here, someone like Heretics could definitely just deliver tier 1 play. We've seen it from Focus before. They've surprised us almost every single time, even when I'm expecting great things of them. And Foot, you know, again, I'd love to see Kiwi get a chance after, I think Champs in a way didn't go too well for him, right? But at the end of the day, Masters, they lost to EG and DRX, and then they lost to EG, Fnatic, and was it PaperX in Champs? Three of the top 4 teams. Like, that's rough. And to then look at it and go, yeah, but if you look at the duelists, actually Kiwi's statistics are of course they're terrible. Look at the teams they played. Like, they didn't get an easy game. So, you know, on the one hand, there's that, but sometimes one bad performance, if you're already on that knife's edge, if the team's already thinking about changes, it will just get you out the door.
It's also just the goals of the org as well. It's like, I like them. Like, the fact is, I think we see a lot of teams just become lazy. Like, because I think top 8 for them at Champions at the beginning of the year, I think Sunam would have bit your hand off for that, because like from going from basically winning VLRs, not even being in the previous year, to top 8 at Champs is insane. Like, that's a journey in itself, and especially with only adding in Adder Captain and nobody else, that's incredible. But if you don't move with the times, if you don't gamble on some of the players like CNED, who we already know can easily be one of, if not the best duelist in the world if he hits his prime, and going back into a Turkish-speaking roster, something we've not seen from him for a long, long time. You have to bear in mind that that was through Ascend as well. Like, it's been a few years since he got to speak his core language and be in Turkey, and basically, like, it could boost morale massively for him. So he might go into a zone we've not even seen before. He might not, but that's the gamble they're taking.
I hope he does.
I hope he does as well, because I would love to see just like god tier, like 2021 CNED, but maybe speaking Turkish, he could be even better. Who knows? And then Yedege is this young star. Like, the fact is, if you don't pick him up, BBL, if they didn't, I would have been disappointed. Like, I think one of them was going to do it, and I think he is someone that him and Woot were destined for tier 1. It's just whether or not, like, I think in Woot's case, the only risk you took was that he couldn't play for a bit. And I think that says how good he is. The fact that Heretics have gone, yeah, fuck it. We'll screw the first half of our year playing with a stand-in. I'm also, it might sound a bit random, but like, if Mixwell retired, but he might have to play the beginning of the year, which is just funny. Like,
right? Like,
I am going, but not yet. In a few months.
I'm back.
I'm back. Like, I never left. Imagine if they did just win. Woot's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Impression farming at its finest. Just like, I'm leaving. I'm back for a limited time. I'm going again. They make a whole new video. Like, I had one last run.
Buy Mixwell version 2. Oh god.
2.0. Mixwell.
This will be my second to last team I ever played.
I said they'd be my last team, but I'm back on that team. So
yeah, exactly.
Technically,
got
I was
you
right. And he's still there, kind of, as a content creator. God. Look, I want to believe in the return to CNED. CNED playing on a Turkish team for the first time in a long time in Turkey as well to qualify for this event. I'll say that gives them the boost. I'll pick Foot as my team to make it through.
That's fair. I think I would I think Foot is the smart choice, just because there are 3
I'm known
core.
For that.
There are 3 core already. They're the only team coming in other than G2 Gozen who have the core of their roster the same as last year. Heretics have had a while to practice, from what I understand. I know a couple of their players aren't announced, but I'm pretty certain they are already on that team. I've been keeping an eye on Flynn's spreadsheet, and it hasn't changed for them in a while. So I would say that I think that they will have had some time to practice, but that's still not going to be ideal because it won't have been like against the tier 1. It won't be in tournaments. It won't be on LAN. So these are all things that you have to consider with their young team. And I think Miniboo, obviously, we got to see him play in the Ascension, and he wasn't as good as I hoped him to be. He was good individually, but the team definitely suffered. So I had definitely a few question marks there. So I think I'd probably lean towards Foot as well. I do think, though, that it's wide open. And I think that makes it very, very exciting heading into Japan, where obviously we've got teams like the New Zeta, New 100 Thieves, New Cloud9, Fnatic, DRX. Had to remove the word new because they're not going to change anything. But and also teams like Fennel, who I remember Diriali, but a lot of the players coming from the Japanese scene I have not kept up with massively. So, and Scars as well, who currently on Wikipedia only had 3 players listed on their roster.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be an exciting tournament. But I also think the team that goes through this qualifier, it's not impossible that they do really well over in Japan. And this is a tournament that I know everybody wants to be attending because of its location. So I think definitely keep an eye out on that one. The other thing I want to lean into while we're here is the other moves we've seen within EMEA, because
the rest of the sheet.
Yeah, the rest of Flynn's sheet. We're giving him the plaudits, mainly because a lot of other people will leak stuff and talk about stuff, but he's made it neat and tidy so I can look over at my second monitor and just go rumors. I guess we could go through the sort of, I don't want to say the dull ones, but Fnatic minus Mini plus
more or less
no one so far.
It will be someone, but who?
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was
DM?
just SLK. In all honesty, like if he is sticking around, like the guy seems to be very involved in the structure of this team anyway, but. Yeah, until they're going to announce someone, I'll be honest, unless it's like Sliggy, I'm not going to be that excited anyway, because you've removed... Mini's gone. Mini was probably my favorite coach. So to replace him, I don't know who you could get where I'd be like, yeah, that guy. Like, I don't know.
I'm just going to tell... I'm gonna let I mean, we got a bunch of people to discuss. Salah.
Yeah, Salah. The thing is, Salah will probably DM me anyway, even if you don't say anything. You don't have to let him know. Like, I could say anything on Twitter, and Salah would be like, "Why do you think that?" So
there's just no need. Like, oh, Mini's my favorite coach. Screw all those other guys, man. Zeiss,
yeah,
PM, get out.
Hey, I went for dinner with Dinny. That's what we call it. Dinner with Mini.
Dinny.
Recently. Right. So, it's basically a thing.
Yeah, that Bambino guy, screw him. Screw him. We never liked him anyway.
I have also had breakfast with him and...
and dinner. We went for dinner with him as well. So.
That's true.
So,
I like hanging out with them too.
Favoritism, bro.
They don't match up
They're
to
not
me.
your favorites.
Well, what can I say?
That's all that matters.
The thing is, you could be my friend, but if you're a world champion, you automatically win. So
right. Well, to be fair, all right, I'll give you that. My best friend Boaster agrees.
Yeah. and Enzo. Oh.
All right. Now that was uncalled for, and there was no need. Speaking of Enzo,
second place is still cool too.
It is. Yeah.
I can't see your face, but I can feel the pain. We'll move on.
No.
Do you know what we'll move on to? Team Liquid Rumors, Mitch. Are you excited for those?
I may have let out a few primal screams when I saw these leaks come through. Unbelievable, man. Not just having Kaiko, not just having Enzo, even Mystic added onto it afterwards.
Well, that's the thing.
Up,
like
man.
Mystic was your like love before Enzo. So I'm almost curious how you feel about that, because I felt like you had a real like bond, and then you just went, oh no, it's Enzo now.
You see, the thing is, and you'll remember this, I've had this discussion with Mystic before, because he was like, what the hell, man? I feel like he just went cold on me. You'll remember, I loved Mystic when he played Viper. And my boy stopped playing Viper quite as much.
And then Enzo always played
for a while.
Viper.
Well, no, Enzo is a different case. Yeah, I'm just saying, Mystic changed up his MO. He switched up on me. What am I supposed to do? What's that?
It is the fact that Enzo is French.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's literally the only difference.
Facetious, baseless
if Mystic
accusation.
was French and Enzo was British, you would prefer Mystic.
Okay, That's a very unique case you've got. You know,
am I correct?
But anyways, Mystic could be playing that Viper again. You know, she's in meta, she's looking good, and looking at the roster, you've got every other role filled in there. So I'm imagining Mystic Viper, we can reignite that flame. Let's have that dinner.
Wait,
we've been organizing a dinner for years.
You want Mystic's Viper over Nats?
Yes, yeah. Put Nats on a cipher. Good old days. Sentinel, get Mystic on the controller. Everybody's happy. Everyone, I'm happy.
Viper cipher.
I don't care about anyone else.
If it's not like
Breeze,
if it's not Breeze, I don't want to see it.
We can keep that map out of my mind. I hate Breeze.
Wasn't it? Okay, Angel did it on Icebox once as well, and that made me feel physically ill.
Yeah, Angel's done a lot of things that have made me feel physically ill. His breach on Haven, I will never forget, and I'll never forgive. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, his Euro on Icebox was also
legendary.
No,
something to be replicated till the ends of time. In fact, I hope Nats tries that when Icebox is back. Pull out the Yoru.
To get back to the roster, I think it's interesting because you've taken the pieces, the core of an Ascension roster, which I think like that team was incredible all the way through up until the point where they lost. Like basically they were already world champions in everybody's minds when they went into that grand final, and then Gentlemates just hit God mode. Like that was one of the best performances I've seen from them. I also feel like you could argue that they crumbled a little bit on the Apex side, but be that as it may, I don't want to take anything away from Gentlemates. So I don't think it's a bad core to pick up. I do think though, like going with a core almost completely from an Ascension team has its risks, because although they've been practicing versus Tier 1, I'm sure all of the trials and other teams playing against them will know it. It is still that step up for Liquid. And of course they've kept Nats and Yumpy. If they had not kept Nats and Yumpy, I would have been banging on the doors like of their CEO being like, what the fuck are you doing? Because they're like, those are two players that not only do you not want to let leave, you don't want to let go to someone else. They would have instantly signed, like not even a second's notice. But
Nats on Giants in a heartbeat.
I think that this roster, it's sort of, I think it probably does quite well for them financially. Like you're not going explosive.
You reckon Liquid has money?
Hmm?
You reckon Liquid has they got the cash in the tank? I've heard they're sitting pretty.
No, but that's why I'm saying. I still think this roster is cheaper than the last one.
Oh yeah. That's
what I'm saying. It's like you're not blowing the bank out like you did last time, and it didn't work. So I think that it's a good roster. I like the look of it so far. I do think letting Safe go is going to come back to bite them. We'll talk about that later, but I think that even though he's somewhat, I'll call him a personality. Like I'm sure it's like maybe there was something within the team that just differed in opinions or whatever. But I do think letting him go is a terrible idea. Like I think that guy's gonna blast them at some point, and they're gonna in server, and they're gonna regret it. But I like the look of this team. Whether they'll be able to win a championship, which is always the Liquid goal. Like these guys don't aim low. I don't know. Like that's the one thing I question. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, look, the reality is this is a team that's going to have a high pressure on them to achieve that regardless. I don't think Liquid would pick them up if they didn't have it in mind that they could do it.
True.
And to be honest, like especially when I think about someone like Safe and contrast that with Enzo and Nat's kind of dynamic, I think it's a very different game that they're playing as well. Like not to say that he wouldn't do well on this team, but I don't think he'll fit this team as much as he will Vitality. Like they look like that can be a very, very fluid roster. And I mean, anytime I see a Macedonian get signed, I just start thinking about Madden back in the day. Remember when Godsent guy was like actually cheating? Like he wasn't actually cheating, but if you put it side by side, you would never know.
So the story for those who didn't follow CS, the story of Madden getting signed to Godsent was that he shit on them in a match. So they signed him.
Yep. They played a qualifier. They played against him. I was in a bar with them, and they were telling me like, there's Michael A. was like, this guy dropped 50 kills. So we were like, either he's cheating or we should sign him. So they trialed him and went, I don't think he's cheating. He might be, but I don't think he is. Let's sign him. They took the risk and it paid off. He hasn't been banned yet.
That's
I hope this doesn't age poorly.
So moving on to Vitality then. This roster for me is the most exciting so far. Like I don't think there's another roster that has got me as hyped as this one, purely off the fact that I think them getting safe is huge. Like, I would rather, I don't think he's going to be playing duelist. I think runner is, which, okay, you've gone for this like Eastern European monster. I get it. Personally, I think any team that safe is in, other than maybe Fnatic or like EG, I think that safe should be the duelist. I think the guy's unreal, but he still is very flexible at playing like Initiator, Sentinel, whatever you need. I think Destrian, in my opinion, other than, again, maybe players on Fnatic, is probably the best support player in EMEA. I don't see anybody doing the things that he does for the team. I think Kix is another young star that can play both Initiator and Sentinel when needed. And I think Sender is a decent Sentinel. I think he'll still put up numbers, and I think within this team he'll thrive. This is the one I'm most excited about, purely because in my opinion, it could be unreal or not work at all, and that's why it's exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. Like, Runner's taking a big jump up in terms of opposition that he's going to be competing against. Yeah. Like, again, I do not in the slightest. If it was another team, maybe I'd have some doubts, but the recruitment process that Vitality goes through, I wouldn't even dare to question
it.
You
don't get through Salah, Strong, and Gorilla while being shit at the game. I don't think it happens.
No. So I see a name I don't know there, and I just go, I should know that name. That's my bad. Yeah. I have faith that they're going to do well at the very least. I think like a super exciting one, sure. Liquid, maybe takes the cake for me for other reasons. But I actually am very excited to see KC as well. And not least because of the storylines of Cadaver being in the league, but Magnum making a return as well. That could be really exciting. Martine, I don't know if that's locked in or not. It seems like it is.
I think it's like that's the 90% chance. That's what the C means.
Okay.
So I think if it's blue, that means they've actually signed. Everybody else is sort of like, unless we know them, like they're in their contracts already, the chances are that they could like move out. Like there was a point where there was a question mark with Zipan and stuff, but it seems like that, that's basically like a 90%. So it seems like Martin is going to be in there.
Fair enough. But then like, anybody or any team that's getting rid of players like Scream and Nevera coming out of a season, they are going to have so many eyeballs on them. It's been like, okay, so why did you do that? Like, prove to us that was a good choice, because you're not going to look back at last year and say those two players are pivotal to the team. They completely changed the game in the EMEA. That's not the truth, right? The reality is, though, I think there's a lot of people out there, especially within the KC fandom, within the French scene, that want them to have that little bit of extra time, that they think like, well, if they got the opportunity, different team next year, they could pull through. And I think that's probably where the players' heads are at as well. So a divisive decision either way.
Yeah, I also think so going on to KC, I think Martin, obviously like one of those sort of young stars again, like I think he was playing with GMT, seems to be flexible on pretty much every single duelist. Like he can play a Reyna, a Raze, he's played Yoru, he did Neon, he's got everything. He's even played some Breach, which going to try and ignore, but he's 18 years of age. I think he's gonna be good. Also, again, like young players being coached by Eng, it just I have faith. I have mass amounts of faith. Like I've seen it. I watched him turn basically those Gambit players into like 5 young stars into just unreal players that we have all at the top of the scene. So I have a lot of faith there. Magnum as an IGL is interesting. I definitely think he's one of the more vocal players, like, even just from talking to him in real life. Like I think he has the making of what could be a good IGL. Whether he will be one, I don't know. I think that's going to be interesting. I also think the combination of Eng and Zaysh could be really good based off them over the last couple of years. Cadaver definitely has the ability. I don't know. I think it's a very weird mix of players. Like, I think Shin is someone who, as a support player at the beginning of the season, looked good. Then the rest of the season, that whole team was just fucking weird. So I'm not gonna. If they're thinking of keeping him, fair enough. Like it's difficult to judge because that team was just fucked. So it's like I'm not gonna like go, oh no, it's a terrible idea, because I don't know. And I will say a lot of the French hands have a lot of faith in him, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Again, though, just looking at the 4 players they have listed, I don't know if just looking at every other team, I don't think this team gets past mid-table.
It's got to be a big signing, that middle player, and it's not even like because Cadaver's going to be duelist. You have to imagine. So I don't know. Well, again, that's
I don't know.
a
I
rumor.
think it would have to be like I would say it would be Martine, but I don't know.
You
like
reckon?
Kada, I feel like has Kada been playing other stuff?
Kada was always flexible. He was always flexible and always down to play other agents. So I wouldn't be terribly
recently,
surprised. But
I think even on his last team, Cadaver was playing Smokes. So I would assume
maybe his filling. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was playing Smokes. He was still like he's been doing fantastic on like Viper, Astra. Like even in their last game actually versus Gentlemates, he dropped 85 kills and they lost plus 27. That's insane.
Shin also plays Smokes, right? So like you could,
I would
I
say
just don't know.
For me, Shin is an initiator and always should have been an initiator. I think they like tried to flex him, but I really liked his like fade. I think his fade was fucking good, and then they just kept moving everything on that team so that Navira could smoke and stuff. So like, I
just trying to make something work, man.
Yeah.
You know, you can't
like
blame
XMS was playing Smokes for the most part, right?
Yes, and XMS is traditionally a smoker as well.
So,
like
I think that whole team is just a bit weird. I'm gonna assume it will be Martin Duelist, Cadaver Smoke, Shin Initiator, Magnum Sentinel, and then +1. Like that's in my mind, that's what makes the most sense roles wise.
Okay.
So then the last player would be a flex.
And I mean, I gotta say, you did him dirty. And first of all, actually, just to finish off KC, you also have the question of like, I'm assuming, I know Magnum. I don't think he's going to be IGLing in French. So you have an open door for who that final player is, not just being stuck in
NA import, which.
Hey, people in North America speak French. Mostly, I guess you expect Canada, but NA maybe. Yeah, could be. Who's your favorite Canadian player? Go.
You know.
So anyways, looking at one team you sold short.
Wait, wrong game.
You sold short Navi, man. Like, I think that is exciting. It's only one change, but having big man Artist back on the team,
like it's
gonna
be
such a good year. It's gonna be such a good year.
I think the other reason I'm not excited, it's not because I don't think it will work either. It's just the most obvious move ever. He gets dropped from his team. You need a flexible duelist. Get Artist. Like it makes perfect sense. So I'm not excited. Like that's why I'm most excited about Vitality, because I don't know what I'm gonna get. Like I think it could be really good, but
I'm just not following it, man.
Know. But like Artist is like, oh, it'd be cool. I've already seen it though.
But just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's not exciting. Making another Star Wars trilogy, that makes sense financially. That's exciting. Hopefully Navi's not like the new Star Wars trilogy. If they ever made it, I don't know. Haven't seen him. Don't want to know about it. The thing is, Artist, I think he's going to be like a new Lord of the Rings trilogy. Not as bad.
Okay, can we? It's like. The point I want to make though about this is I think it's an obvious fix, but also I think in Valorant, because the game is changing so much, like you look at all the young players that are coming up, I actually still think this is a risk, because I don't think there's like a guarantee that things are just going to go back to the way they were. Like, firstly, there's been mass shifts. Like, Fnatic are infinitely better than when Na'Vi went on their run. Like, it's a completely different team. They're performing much better. I think Giants roster looks a lot better. I think New Liquid's going to be tougher to beat. New Vitality, New Heretics. So I feel like everybody has upgraded, whereas they have upgraded, but they've upgraded back to where they were a year ago.
Sure.
So I just don't know. Like, I can't get excited about that, because if it's as good, fantastic. You've nailed it. You've made the easiest, most obvious move. Cool. I think the dynamic Angel and Artist is going to be fucking hilarious. I'll love it. I'll enjoy myself.
That's what I'm excited about.
There is still just a part of my brain that goes, you're gambling a lot on the fact that it's firstly just going to go back to the way it was after he left and like came back. It is like maybe NA ruined him, but there's also just the fact of like the meta has changed, the game's changed drastically. Will it just be as good? And even if it is as good, are the other teams going to be on the same level? And I think the answer to that is no. So I'm curious to see how Na'Vi do, because I think that I don't think they're going to go in as a number 1 or number 2 team in the region. I think they might be a little bit further down.
I think that's fair. Yeah, the reality is like it's a great excuse for us either way. If Artist comes in, shits the bed, doesn't play too well, we just say NA ruined him, all good, you know. And nobody can do a year in NA and come back the same, you know, or better. It ain't happening. So I would like that. Hell, even Ye is trying to get out of there now. So it's all making sense. It all adds up either way. But hopefully he does just have that prodigal son return. I like the banter between him and Angel is going to be next level. Can you imagine the bitterness Angel's going to bring to the stage? Just be like, you left me, motherfucker. Like, I don't forgive you for that. He's going to be
cheated
brilliant.
On me with that finesse.
Do I call as good as him? Huh? What would he have said here?
Oh,
like,
no.
It's just going to be hilarious, dude.
And the thing is, Artist will just be like, oh, finesse told me to do that. Like, he'll fucking rub it in as well. He's not the sort of person that will just let it go.
Those vlogs are going to be on fire, and then just Marcus running around behind them.
Fuck's sake. Right. Giants. Not much of a change, but it's obviously one that was forced upon them because Rhyme has decided to go back to school. Fair play. I respect
absolutely.
it. Redgar coming in. Now, this for me, I think a Redgar Pipson duo is going to be disgusting. I think that, like, both of them really like structure. So I think that's going to be a match made in heaven. I think that's one of the main reasons I think they're actually considering bringing him in. I even think that, like, well, you could see on the list, it was Cloud IGL, Redgar IGL. So I'm going to assume that both of the... Well, I don't think Redgar will join if Cloud is IGL, but I think chances are, by the looks of it, Redgar will be joining the team. I think it's a good move for them. I do think that Pipson might have a few nightmares with Redgar TPing into places with operators, and he might have to get rid of that shit. But other than that, teams sticking the same. I think especially for the early tournaments of the year, I think Giants are going to be a real threat to get into those qualification spots.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Look, Giants are a team that I don't think they're... I don't know. It's fair to say they'll be stronger for that change, especially with it being sprung on them. But they have the time to change, and it's not a bad looking roster whatsoever. I think like putting them in the top 50% isn't a stretch.
No, I would say I would definitely place them there. I think there's a few other rosters that, especially off the bat, I think over time it'll be interesting to see how like Heretics, Vitality, and all of them. But like straight away, I think that they'll be in contention. I also think the fact that they're partnering with one of the teams that's already on the line, like. I think that'll be interesting for them because it means that they firstly can put that extra pressure on. It's like, if you're shit, you're out. But it also means it can fill that team up with like maybe some young CIS talent, which, as we've already seen, it just comes out disgusting in the end. Other than that, not a massive change. Koi, I don't know.
Like a good player.
The players that like but that's an unlikely one. So I think they're still very much in the mix of like I've seen so many players on that list. It seems like Goked has gone. Like he's put a load of stuff on their flights, and from what I know, he does a lot of the like hardcore analytical stuff for that team. So that's a big loss. From what I've heard, like from behind the scenes, like losing him's going to be rough, and he might actually have better horizons on the cards. I think the 3 they've kept makes sense. Like I think and the 2 they've lost also makes sense.
What I heard from talking to people behind the scenes was that a lot of the people that they were looking to pick up, and I've actually been keeping my nose out of all the rumors and stuff like that, just because, up until a couple of days ago, looking at this, just because it's not interesting to me in the earlier stage, like 2 months ago. I don't really care because I know most of that is going to change.
Yeah. They had about 15 different players listed.
Yeah, supposedly they pursued a lot of players, and actually they got poached by other people.
Yeah. I think Magnum
in the meantime,
was on that list,
they're still a little too slow. Yeah. Magnum was there. I had heard Magnum was going there. That was one of the things that, again, people talked around me, and I was just playing the games, whatever. You're listening, you hear it. And yeah, supposedly they were a little slower in the legislative part, getting people contracts, getting them concrete offers. And someone else came along, and they people need contracts, they need money, so they took the other offers, and then Koi were left. It's gotta suck, man, especially if that's true. If that's like from a coaching perspective, you lock in who you want, you build your team, you have a short list, And then everyone on the short list, by the time that, you've said, hey guys, get this guy, you're going to get him. Okay, cool. And then a week later you come back, he's gone. That guy's gone. The other guy, the fourth replacement, gone. Like, you're just,
it's
wow, it's going to be tough.
Because I think that Magnum, with the 3 players they had, would have been really good. Because I think in like a team where there's a lot of positivity is fantastic, and I think Magnum brings a lot of positivity. So I think that would have been that is a big loss. I think Alive would be insane. Like I think this guy deserves to be at the tier 1. I think he belongs there, and the same for Tombizz as well. So it seems like they're still very much like in the testing period. Obviously, one of the main things they're looking for is a duelist, but a lot of the like top tier talents already starting to sign up. So I'm a little bit worried for them. The fact that they haven't made a mass move yet. I think obviously Gentlemates. We don't need to go into mass detail with them because their team is the same. Old, right? But I also I wouldn't want them to make any changes. I think their team looked really good in Ascension. I think a Foot has already proven that being good in Ascension, or even the tournament before that, where it definitely wasn't as competitive in the VLR, and they went on to be top 8. So I think for Gentlemates, maybe if things don't go well, they might want to make something after the first tournament is played, like obviously the short couple of week one that will take you to the first Masters. But if they did it before then, I think that would have been mad. I can't see anybody going out. I think Natank and Takas, especially, like Carmine Corp, have probably been trying to tempt them the entire time because those 2 players are unreal and definitely going to be leading the French scene. So yeah, I think I can't really see any reason why they would have changed anything.
No, and I think that's one of the teams that really will benefit from sticking together because everyone else here is a team, or not everyone, but the majority of teams here are teams put together for this league. They're put together, sometimes on short notice, sometimes ripped from other teams in the hope that it works, and then they're fixing it on the fly. Gentlemates have proven, through blood, sweat, and tears, they have proven that they deserve to be here. And I think that already puts them in a favored position that they were able to make it through that tier 2 grind, able to take down, effectively take down Team Liquid. And what we're looking at them as being right now with those roster swaps, like they're a squad that I would view any change, to be honest, regardless of who steps in, I would view it as a big mistake. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it certainly ain't broke.
Yeah, and then last but not least, I believe, is obviously going to be our boys over at BBL. And the thing is, I do feel like BBL, I don't mind the changes they've made. Like, especially, I think the move for Aslan, AIM-DLL to drop out of the roster, I don't think that's a crazy move. I honestly kind of thought this roster would get blown up completely. Like, I thought that would just be it. And they would obviously, look to rebuild. I think Cushion
it almost is.
Yeah, Cushion is decent. And they've kept Brave, who definitely didn't have the best last season, but I guess if they put the blame on other players within the team, then fair enough. I just don't know if this is going to... Firstly, I thought they'd get CNED. I thought that was so obvious that CNED would go straight to them. Obviously, if Foot come a call in after the season they had, it makes sense. Pora coming back in as IGL... The amount of times I've seen him want to IGL, not want to IGL, want to IGL, not want to IGL, want to IGL, not want to... I just don't know if he's going to be that, crazy leader. I think he's a great player, and I wouldn't mind if he was a player, but that seems to be one of the major problems with this organization or with this team and region in general is there's just not a lot of IGLs, and one of the ones that we did think was decent was Suchny, and then after this season, I think people have fallen quite flat on him, so... It now leaves them signing a couple of players who I think probably going to be decent. I think Reezy especially seems to have pretty solid numbers coming out as an initiator. I think he'll be a good player. I think Elite as well, coming through mostly seemingly playing as more of a sentinel. But I just don't know if this is going to be a team where I can go, okay, they're now going to be a top team. I still look at them just nearer the bottom of the list. They've not blown me away, basically.
Yeah, there's to say there's no potential would be unfair, but
no, of course,
it definitely isn't someone that you're going to put all your money on making top 4.
Yeah,
it's a squad that can do well, but we really need to see the right environment for them to thrive. Right now, I think one of the strongest teams coming in, barring the obvious of a Fnatic, I'm going to say a Liquid as well. I think Gentlemates might be one of the stronger ones to look out for. Like BBL, maybe towards the bottom. Vitality is going to be hit or miss. But just knowing that squad, knowing that the recruitment process behind, knowing the coaching staff, I think it's probably going to be closer to a hit than a miss. And to be honest, this season looks a lot stronger across the board from what we're seeing right now than what we had last season. Like, I believe in a lot more of these teams. Whereas last season, it was like we knew that sending them to the international level, there was going to be some problems, regardless of who that kind of 4th, 5th team was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see this year, especially. And I do wonder if there's going to be any more sort of changes going into the season with, like, I don't know what Koi's going to pull out of the bag to sort of save this one, because I think in terms of leaders, they almost look like they're kind of stuffed, other than just, like, using what they've already got. I think Carmine Corp looks interesting. As said, I got big questions about what BBL are going to do. And also even teams like Foot. Like, is this going to be an upgrade? Because that's the risk they've taken, is, like, their team was already good. It's just they want to challenge for titles. And I think it's possible that this is the move they've made that could do that, but it's also possible that things are worse, because they had a really good team synergy before. But either way, Mitch, I think we've kind of covered EMEA. I think we're going to do a separate thing where we go through Americas, Pacific, and maybe even a little bit of China, although I will admit, I feel like us looking at the China roster moves is probably going to be just like, I don't know, 2 men running around in the dark trying to find a needle in a haystack. Yeah, I added a step because I just don't think we know enough about the region to unless you're going to see Can.
It's been proven to me every time that I see them play. You know, they're my new South America, where before I was grossly underestimating South America. They would come out and prove me wrong. Came into these events, grossly underestimated China. They proved me wrong. So yeah, I think I'm definitely ignorant on that, but we'll see. We can do some digging beforehand.
But either way, the reason this show is called Split Decision is because we try and come up with a couple of statements, or I think this time we'll do maybe a statement each. And the other person then gets to select whether or not they want to argue for or against that point. So obviously, the aim of the game is either to try and say something so outlandish that you have a counter argument for, or say something a little bit on the fence and see if you can win the argument that way. And then you can decide down in the comments who you think took the win over that one. Mitch, do you want to go first or second? I'm feeling nice today.
I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
Feeling like it's a pretty clear-cut statement. Team Liquid, top 2 EMEA.
Can I ask, when? Are you talking the whole year? Are you talking the first tournament? Top 2
and
the season?
Going into playoffs, I would assume. Or coming out of playoffs. Let's make it
playoffs for what?
Playoffs like finished.
The very end of the year, going
the end of the season.
Okay.
Yeah. The end of EMEA is the season, as you know, the 2 seasons, 3 seasons, when it goes to the very end of the year. EMEA will be divvied up. Maybe Liquid are on top, maybe they're number 2, but they're in there. They're in that discussion.
See, that I feel like it's almost too easy to argue that the other way, because there's so many good teams at the moment. So I'm going to say I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree. Yeah, I would say my argument is that, as said, I think they're going to regret letting go of Safe. I think Vitality have built a roster with Kicks Runner and Safe. I rate all of those very highly. I think we're going to see this year why and me and many others consider Destrian to be one of the best support players. I think Foot have made some fantastic upgrades. I think CNED and Yetier are going to be filthy. And I think Team Heretics, for me, are looking like one of the best Dark Horse teams we've ever had. Like, so much young talent. I think when Woot subs in towards the end of the season, you're about to see the truth of Turkish talent. Like, this kid's going to tear things up. As you mentioned, I think Gentlemates are going to come in hot, and they've already beaten 3 of those players in a grand final, so why can't they beat the other 2?
I mean, that's a fair enough argument. My counter to that would be, when we were going through Ascension, everyone was having the argument that Apex, well, they would not only compete, they would be a team worthy of going. Fair. They did, yes.
By the way, sorry, one thing I forgot.
Yeah, here it is.
Fnatic.
Gentleman. Oh, Fnatic. Okay,
they're gonna win.
Fnatic, yeah, maybe they're gonna come top 2.
You're gambling on Fnatic B. What are you talking about? Like, of course, Fnatic will win.
Liquid. Realistically, right now, you're taking a team that could have competed last year at its core. You're swapping out Magnum to another team. You're swapping out Shadow. My man's being robbed. Why is he not in here? And then you're adding in Yumpy and Nats under the leadership of a man like Enzo, one of the greatest IGLs we've ever seen.
So
without a doubt.
What, is he that much better than Redgar?
Yes. 10 times, I would say, minimum.
Wow.
No disrespect to Redgar. I love Redgar. We've had dinners. We've hung out. I love that guy.
And
He's
there's
a great
that much
dude.
you care about him.
Nicest
Enzo is
people in the
10
world.
times better than him, even though he wasn't even in the league last year.
Redgar, I love you, man, but you can't come between me and Enzo like that.
How many tournaments has Enzo won IGLing?
Starting to sound like Redgar's agent here, bro.
I'm just asking. How many Champions Finals did he get to?
Just because,
just because
he hasn't
Redgar
had the
has won
opportunity.
stuff.
Just because he's won some things doesn't mean he's good. All right. Why are we arguing Redgar is bad? I love Redgar. I don't think he's a bad
I'm just
player
saying, like,
or bad IGL.
You said they
Just
brought in an
Enzo's
IGL who's
IGL
10 times better, and I'm arguing that.
Than anyone. You put any
anyone.
IGL in there. Boser,
okay.
Who is that guy?
Insane.
Who is that guy? It should have been Enzo. I'm just saying. Fnatic Enzo, it was a thing. And I'm not
and
saying
then he
Boser
left and they won
stole that
everything.
away. Yeah, that did also happen. What's yours, Tom? What's your split decision?
What's my split decision? My split decision is not that different, but it's a little bit more global.
Okay. Fnatic top 2.
Fnatic will again win at least 2 tournaments.
I'm going to argue that Fnatic are going to win 2 tournaments. It's it's one of the best rosters, most consistent of all time.
Okay.
They've
that's not regional, by the way.
built.
I mean 2 international.
International. Yeah. Yes. I think 2 international tournaments is a reasonable goal for Fnatic to have coming into the season. I imagine the organization probably agrees as well. I don't imagine they're cheaping out on their player budgets at this point. Certainly any re-signs that are going to come up are going to be
maybe
expensive.
The coaching budget.
Well, that's one thing, isn't it? But this is a squad that, even going back to, sure, not champs, a little bit of a tougher run, losing to teams like Loud and Loud. But the thing is, when you look back at Tokyo, they beat the team that fucking won champions. They won that event. They looked incredible doing it. And I think that kind of performance can easily be replicated. Champions, it is what it is. They faced off against Loud twice in a row. A team that now might be even easier to beat. Also, looking internationally with all the roster swaps, I'm not convinced that a lot of them are going to come out looking stronger. I think there's been some financial fuckery, let's say, behind the scenes that's ended up with rosters coming out weaker than they wanted to be, whether it be coaching staff, whether it be players. So I would be relatively confident that Fnatic end up winning I might have won both of them here. I mean, last time I'm just thinking it was Fnatic Liquid top 2 in the EMEA as well.
Definitely did not win the first one.
So,
but I'll give you. The thing is, I actually only thought of this counter argument just now. Do Fnatic win lock-in without Mini?
Depends who they get in instead.
No. I mean, lock-in last year. If Mini wasn't there in that grand final, do they win? You know the answer is no.
13-11.
You know the answer is no. Like, they do not win. He was the turning point in that match, taking that pause and telling them exactly what they were doing wrong. If he wasn't there, they don't win lock-in, they win 1 tournament.
If he wasn't there and Enzo was as a coach, he would have called that pause 5 rounds earlier, and it wouldn't have been nearly as close. So
if Enzo did a job he's never done before, I think the impact of Mini leaving is gonna hit harder than they might expect. I also think that a lot of other teams. I think you're right in the sense that I think like Loud, for example, without Aspas, that's gonna be tough boots to fill. But it also means someone else is coming in with Aspas. I think. I'm really excited to see Munya on Paper X. Like, that for me is like, obviously they've lost Jing. There ain't no replacing Jing, but they have replaced Jing with someone who is gonna play not the same, but play a very aggressive style and has the potential to be one of the best players in the world, in my opinion. DRX are the same. There's still opportunities for them. And I think that the potential America's teams that are going to come out of like EG imploding could actually be better than EG themselves. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see the landscape. I also just think we've only ever seen once a team win 2 tournaments. So to bet on a team to win 2 tournaments 2 years in a row, statistically is just fucking unlikely. And I think they'll win 1. I do believe that they'll still be up the top, but they'll still be battling for it. But I honestly think that they probably should have just offered Mini whatever bag he wanted, because I think that he works perfectly within that team. And I don't think it matters who they get to replace him, because I think whoever it is, even if they're a mastermind of creativity, they don't need that on Fnatic. They have Boaster. They have someone who does that. What they need is someone who knows the players and can read the players well, and you're not going to be able to do that straight away.
Yeah, you have to wonder as well what else is going to be lost behind the scenes with him leaving.
Yeah. Not least because he's
hard. and exactly, not least because he's a hard worker, but also because of the amount of time that he's been with them. Whoever you put in there, they're not going to know what Durka should eat before bed. You know what I mean? They're not going to know you need to ring this guy 5 minutes early in the morning.
Spends a lot of takeaway, so maybe Mini doesn't have an impact on that one.
He's not whipping up the midnight snacks, but
no. I think most of the teams have someone who cooks for them or orders them food.
Yeah, but
I don't think
I'm talking on match days. You know, saying the
who
right thing to the right player
before he goes to sleep.
Oh, we need to get that head shine for Durka. But you know, the reality is, I think there's a lot of things on game day that a lot of, especially organizations, don't appreciate that coaches bring to the table. Just knowing your players, knowing what to say to them in what moments, what things affect them, what ways. These are things that you pick up over time, and the chances of that not lining up with a new guy is high. Yeah,
like I think no one knows Boaster better than Mini. Sorry, Sue. So I think
you might be spot on.
I think that's going to be something that, as I said, I don't think there's many people in that moment that could have just gone, guys, you're not communicating properly. We can still win this. Like that. I think most people would come up with like some ridiculous speech or come up with some like strats or something, whereas Mini knew exactly what his team needed. And I think that's going to be tough to replace. I know there's still people out there who, like, as a coach, question him, but I think this year has proven his value to that organization. It still says that he might be sticking around as like an assistant coach, so maybe he'll be on site, but I do think that's, even as just a power dynamic, if they bring someone else in as a head coach, they're going to want to change things. So I'll be interested. I think that either way, I'm curious to see what the guys down in the comments will say. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't know if it's true.
Oh God.
We're gonna try and do more of these. The goal is to have one every couple of weeks, but obviously it is the return of Double Peak after 6 months. It needed to rest for a little bit. We brought Zilv on board as well. Obviously, if you don't know, he is one of the observers for EMEA, so he's going to be helping us out. Go on, Zilv. Input something in for the next few seconds of you saying hello.
Put a picture of yourself.
Hello.
That was Zilv. Yeah, there you go. He probably didn't edit that at all and just left me freeze frame.
Good.
But that's Zilv. He's going to be joining us, and the plan is that we're going to be throwing out quite a bit of content. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and me and Mitch, we'll see you next time. Bye.